laugh at this next part.
In a world of political correctness and cancel culture, two comedians have risen up to prove that with the right angle, anything can be funny. Live from Golden Ox Studios in Cleveland, Ohio, it's Steve Mers and David Horning. This is You Can't Laugh at That. This is a special bonus episode of You Can't Laugh at That. It's just called You Can't Laugh. I don't know. It's a shorter title to signify stop laughing.
Yeah.
I'm David Horning.
And I'm Steve Mers.
And welcome to episode 2.5 of You Can't Laugh at That. We're turning this over real quick for Monday. But I feel like there's enough going on in comedy right now that this is an episode that needed to happen.
Right.
Especially after, current events that happened last week. And how many comedians I've seen try to make jokes about it and just kind of go about it all wrong.
Yeah.
I'm all about finding humor in any situation, finding humor in tragedy. But at the same time, you have to, it's a delicate line.
Right.
It's a very delicate line. You can't just come out swinging. You've got to really measure what you're trying to say with the joke.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. I mean, open mics this week have been cringe-inducing at times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I appreciate people attempting to make jokes about, Kobe's untimely passing. But
I wanted to say that they're not being comedians because they're not making people, but they are trying to. But there's a lack of self-awareness there where it's they're not going to, and you need to be able to recognize that before you try it,
right?
Quote unquote. Because I feel like there's a level of, I feel like they do know that they're not going to laugh at it, and they just like being edgy, and then maybe making a few people laugh that are real sadistic,
or like a big in the room.
I'm a fan of dark humor, but I don't feel like it's the same thing per se.
Right. I mean, you can. There's a difference between a Brian Regan style joke where it's all where it's very lighthearted versus somebody who's trying to kind of toe that line.
Yeah.
You have to be really good. You have to be really good at writing jokes and reading a room and putting those two things together. For example, Ari Shaffir. Ari Shaffir is a great comic. He's very funny, but he thrives on this edgelord kind of humor. Do you remember The Amazing Racist videos that he used to do?
No.
So he would he went into a Chinese restaurant dressed in a kimono and dressed like a geisha, essentially, and he sat next to a table of a Japanese woman and a Hawaiian man, and he made a joke about Pearl Harbor. He's like, "Oh, that's funny. You guys are together because he bombed you or she bombed." Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And everything was he was being overtly racist to be funny, and it was kind of making fun of racists in a way. But if you were just looking at it from the surface, it was offensive. So he's always been on that level of towing the line and sometimes blowing right by it. Whenever a celebrity dies, he posts a video ripping that celebrity. Mm-hmm. And so this one really hit home because Kobe, I feel transcended sports. I don't know, we all kind of grew up with him, and he was just kind of a staple in all of our lives, like the Staples Center.
Staples Center of all of our lives.
Yeah. And so that's why this video touched a nerve. And I'm going to play it. So if you watched it or you don't want to watch it or listen to it or whatever, be warned, because I'm going to play it right now. And then we're going to talk about what he did right, what he did wrong, and then look at a couple of jokes that have worked about this whole thing and go from there.
They call it a trigger warning because you got to plug your ears.
A lot of hate and pain in the world, and there's always a bunch of terrible stories. And every once in a while, there's a good story. A good story comes out. A guy who got away with rape got his today. Kobe Bryant is a god. I'm here in Charlotte, the home of the team that originally drafted him. maybe he wouldn't have raped that chick in Denver if he had stayed in Charlotte with the Hornets.
Too soon.
So Ari, that was essentially what it was. It started, a guy that got away with rape got his today. Like,
Yeah.
First of all, the second you say rape, that's gonna get some people like clenched. Mm-hmm. So you can't start with that. Just this in and of itself, to me, it's not funny.
Oh yeah, it's kind of weird that he would do that because there's nothing, regardless of the subject, there's nothing mechanically funny about it.
There's no setup punchline.
It's
I mean,
not a
he's just
subjective
trolling.
thing. There's literally nothing funny about it.
Yeah.
There's no comedy going on there.
Well, the comedy is that he's trolling, and I feel like, I mean, he got a show at New York Comedy Club canceled.
You know what's good trolling? Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yes.
But I'm not going to go into that. But what were you saying?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
God, he does it in such a beautifully thought out way.
Yeah, that's like a whole other. That's good trolling.
Yeah.
That's different.
Right. No, the New York Comedy Club canceled his show because they were getting threats.
Yeah.
And then I heard from an LA comedian that he's getting death threats from gangs. Like he's like greenlit by gangs. I mean, Kobe was like God to them out there. He killed their Jesus, or he joked about the death of their.
Maybe
Jesus.
he should at that point, because someone who's so deified and worshipped, even though he may have raped somebody. I don't want to get into that. I don't think he should deify these people. It's kind of it's gross to me.
Oh yeah, to deify a celebrity, like they're just a person who got really good at their job in a way that we all can see it. This is a guy who obviously turned his life around. So like to bring up those old wounds is like, okay, that's mistake number one, because you've already turned a lot of people off, starting with that topic. The rest of the video, he goes into how, fuck the Lakers and, fuck Kobe and, they beat my team all the time. Fuck them. He got what he deserves. And this came out, he posted this video like minutes after the story broke. I mean, he was the first one to just jump all over it. So how soon is too soon is the question that I want to ask today. And to me, too soon, there's no such thing as too soon, but you have to be cognizant of your audience. You have to be cognizant of how you're framing the joke.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to realize that you are going to hurt some people because they're not ready to laugh at it yet. You're still in denial. If you're still in denial, you're not as open to laughing about something right away. Making the joke at the expense of the victim is never. I mean, you're digging yourself a hole right away.
Right.
So it better be a damn good joke. I saw one where it was like, Kobe finally passed. Okay,
Right.
That's getting better, but it's still, we're not there yet.
Yeah, I just don't care if people joke about it, but I also will be like, hey, none of this is funny to me.
Right.
But they can just do whatever they want. I don't care.
Right. I saw that where it was at the expense of the Knicks, which worked. At Easy Street Keys on Twitter, breaking news: New York Knicks vow to go on 24-game losing streak to honor the late Kobe Bryant. Now that's funnier because it's a joke at the expense of the Knicks.
Right.
And I mean, it stays in the basketball, the realm of basketball and sports.
I give it a good score for being a tasteful joke around the Kobe incident, but I give it a 0 for how funny I think it is.
Yeah.
But it's still like, I can't relate to it entirely either. I'm not getting what the Knicks suck now, right?
Yeah, the Knicks have always sucked.
Well, yeah, generally.
Yeah.
So it's just hard for me to be like, oh, that totally makes sense. It's more like, oh, I guess that's inferring all this stuff that I don't know.
Right. If you're a basketball fan, that joke makes sense. And I think, I mean, it's a solid joke. It didn't make me laugh, but it's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's a good angle on it. I saw that joke and I was like, oh, this one isn't gonna draw a lot of ire. Now, the day it happened, I was actually on my way to work, and I got a call from my mom. And as we're having this conversation, she called me just to tell me about it. And as we're having this conversation, I start laughing because I'm like, this is a bit. This, her calling me and just to tell me about this. This is a bit about my mom. Like I can.
Oh, I thought you were saying that your mom was doing a bit.
No.
I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, all right. Runs
My
in the
mom
family.
doesn't know joke writing.
She's naturally funny on accident.
Yep. She doesn't even mean to be. And so I got this phone call, and as we're having this conversation, I was like, this is a bit. This is funny. And that's immediately I was like, I have to write something about this because I know people are going to try to write jokes at the expense of Kobe. What if I could write a joke at the expense of my mom instead with, using the Kobe tragedy as the vehicle? So I've done it at open mics this week, and so far I'm 3 for 3 on it, which is a great free throw percentage. That's a Mamba-esque free throw percentage, if you will.
Yeah.
So this is that joke.
I try to stay away from watching the news because it's always so negative, right? But as a comedian, you have to watch the news to stay relevant. So I take a day a week. I take every Sunday, and I avoid watching the news. And it's a breath of fresh air. But this past Sunday, my mom calls me when I'm on my way to work, and she goes, "Hey, David, do you have a minute?" And I was like, "Well, I'm on my way to work, so not really, but make it quick." And she goes, "Kobe Bryant died." Okay, that's terrible. Yeah, I know. He died in a helicopter crash, and he's leaving his family behind. I'm like, Mom, I'm on my way to work. Do you want me to use this at work? Do you want me to go to my customers like, "Hi, my name's David, welcome, I'll be taking care of you today. Kobe Bryant died, he's leaving behind his family. But more importantly, our special today is scallops and a tomato fumet." Come on, man, come on. And then she's so sweet. She goes, "When I die, I hope I go to heaven so I can find Kobe and give him a big hug." Oh, that's sweet. But come on, Mom. We all know you're not going to heaven. Because heaven isn't real. Can I ask you?
I love how that last one is more of a letdown for some people because there's some religious people in every audience.
Well, I have a bit that I haven't really worked out yet that is about how why are we waiting for the afterlife? For heaven. Why not work together to create heaven here?
Because that's against God's plan, David.
Sorry.
You think all that Catholicism would have taught you that, but it clearly didn't get through to you.
Well, I looked at it as a metaphor for if we behave a certain way, we create our own heaven.
I've had the same thought though, honestly,
Yeah.
because we could. The problem is we don't have enough education
Right.
standards, and we haven't figured out a way to cram knowledge into people's brains efficiently enough.
Right. It's
that's literally the problem.
Yeah.
It's about learning and getting people to learn.
How many people do you talk to that think going to church means they're a good person?
I don't, because I've met so many hypocrites.
Yeah.
That they feel like they're favored by God because of some virtuous whatever about their, and they're just assholes.
Yeah.
And they don't even see it.
Yeah. It's you clearly cherry picked the parts of the Bible where you're like, this applies to me.
I can come across like a huge asshole, but at the end of the day, I actually want the best from everyone, and I'm only an asshole to assholes. And there's just so many assholes that I'm an asshole all the time.
Yeah.
I hate these people, and these people are everywhere. Just bad people. They could be better, but I don't know.
Everybody has the power to be better.
A whole other. We could talk about that for hours.
Yeah, hours. That's its own episode. But I don't know. How do you feel about that joke? Why does that joke work?
It's about your mom's silliness. It's not about Kobe dying. And it is, I don't know. It's almost unrelated to the incident itself.
Right.
And it's true. It actually happened. So you're entitled to talk about that and add your own flair to it.
You can't punch down. I told my mom about that joke, and I was like, listen, this joke is at your expense. I don't necessarily mean it, but it gets people to laugh about something. It's a cathartic release. There is the second I mention Kobe dying, the room goes silent every time. Either that or people roll their eyes because they just heard 6 bad Kobe jokes and they're like, oh, here's another one. So that tension is built. The key to a good edgy joke is you've got to create the tension in the setup, and the punchline has to be that relief.
Release, and it's fair, and it's true.
So it has to be fair, it has to be true. You can't punch down at the victim. If you're going to build that tension, you have to pay it off.
Right.
You have to. The release has to be even greater than the tension.
And for anyone listening to this right now, if you want to get laughs, or if you want to be a good person, to me, to you at least, or whatever, no one's ever trying to squash your free speech or quash. What's the word? What's that word for?
Quash is good.
Quash.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like a nice
And now I
quash.
want to look it up. I'm an idiot. People misinterpret the PC or the whatever, the language people use. You can't say that. Well, I don't think some people talk like that, but generally they're just
Say it better.
they're not saying you shouldn't say. They're not being the police. They are expressing themselves the way that you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this back and forth, and you all need to accept that you're going to have a dialogue.
Absolutely.
And that's all there is to it.
People want a funny joke. Like, they want to laugh. They
Right.
want to have that release. And if you just build the tension and then end the joke with the tension still high, and then you're like, oh, I guess you're too sensitive. It's like, no, you just didn't tell a good joke.
Right. This is why I get mad at comics, road hacks. Sometimes just people like, oh, you can't say anything anymore. No one's saying that.
Yeah.
Everybody's becoming so empathetic now. Oh, that's terrible.
Right? Oh, we actually care about the feelings of others.
yeah.
You can tell a joke better. That's it.
Right.
Like, if you're not getting laughs, you can make the joke better.
I've said so much shit on stage that I shouldn't get away with, but I do because you know why? Because I understand there's two things. You got to understand psychology and editing. Those are two of the biggest things in comedy. Mm-hmm. And if you can at least manipulate the audience into laughing, and it's not even manipulate, you're giving them a fair equation to work with.
Right.
And they'll laugh.
Right. I mean, I would never open with that joke. That's something that once I've earned their trust and I bring up Kobe, they're like, what's he going to say about it?
Yeah.
What's his point of view on it now?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you have to do. You have to earn the trust of the audience first to be able to tell a joke. You can't just come up and be like, rape.
I've seen so many comics like that.
Yeah.
Show up with a hood on their head and just do a long deadpan thing that they wrote out word for word, and it's all about rape.
Yeah. It's like,
And then they disappeared forever.
yep. Just like a ghost.
Yeah, they were like a weird rape ghost.
Yeah.
Like a rape joke ghost.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Like a rape, that's like a whole other ghost, but you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Of course. Another thing that I did, though, too, is I made it about the news. Like, the news is so negative all the time.
Right.
And my mom watches it all the time. And then she'll call me and tell me things that are happening. So even when I'm trying to avoid watching the news, like, my mom is like, did you hear this? And did you see this? What do you think? It's like, I'm not trying to think about it right now. That's why,
Right.
I mean, I stay up to date enough, but, it's just a constant barrage of downers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I need to cut myself off from it too.
man.
It causes me a lot of stress.
stress, anxiety. I mean, there's no wonder so many people are suffering from depression and anxiety. It's just a constant barrage of
I think
the
it's
world is
psychological.
terrible.
I think it's psychological warfare on liberals.
Yeah.
You know?
It's on everybody, though.
Because if you are informed enough to understand the implications of what is going on in the world, you can't help but be stressed. I've had to turn that off and become more optimistic just to save myself from freaking out.
Oh, yeah. Now, there are some times where I'm reading a news story. I'm like, why the fuck am I reading this?
I'm managing it pretty well. Some might call that being a triggered liberal, but, being stressed out from the advent of war is a thing that just happens, or some types of wars. There's all kinds of wars going on right now. Propaganda, psychological warfare, actual warfare, the brink of World War III, that sort of thing. Those are all stress-inducing, and if you aren't if there's no stress induced by that, your body's not functioning properly. Your mind isn't functioning properly. These are all fight or flight responses to actual threats.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's just a constant game, and this goes into that psychological warfare. This, Kobe dying and then people posting their edgy responses to it. It's all part of like a division. There's always seems to be two sides when that's not even the case. It's so gray. There's such a vast spectrum. There's no such thing as just right and wrong.
yeah.
Like there are varying degrees to it that people don't consider. It's just like, no, you're right, I'm wrong, or I'm right, you're wrong. So when it comes to this, there's a right way to tell this joke, and there are so many ways to joke about this. But
if you have an audience that you know you have, go tell it to them.
yeah,
They can laugh.
Yeah.
If you know who's going to laugh at it, tell them. Don't tell an audience of whoever.
right.
Then again, I'm not saying you shouldn't. Again, going back to what I said before, I'm just saying, like, if you want, what are you trying to be a comedian or not?
Yeah, if you're gonna put a joke out there, tell the joke, and if it doesn't work, go back and work on it.
You're wasting
Make it better.
Otherwise, you're wasting people's time.
Right. Right. If you're just gonna tell the same joke over and over again and be like, everyone's so sensitive, it's like, no, you just wrote a bad joke. Write it better. It was obviously funny to you at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, and another thing that I see a lot too is people tell jokes that they think the audience will think is funny rather than what they actually think is funny. If you are telling a joke that the idea didn't make you laugh, it's inauthentic. You've got to be real.
Yeah.
You've got to be real about it. I mean, the
Running theme for our podcast, don't be an asshole.
don't be an asshole. Be better. Be better. Don't be an asshole.
Being an asshole, as it turns out, doesn't make people laugh. Unless it's done masterfully like I do.
Unless you're actually an asshole.
I'm trying to think of a recent example. I had one. Oh, we had a heckler at Hilarities on Tuesday. I was doing the Mike Polk show.
Okay.
And this guy kept talking throughout the show, but I was just like... This doesn't go into like severe asshole territory, but I was like, it would be better if you weren't here right now. And everybody laughed at that. I was being an asshole, but I was being reasonable, and everybody got a laugh out of it. Even he did.
Right.
And he was a heckler, and it was a good moment. It got him to shut up.
Yeah, I was like, you're right. Obviously, you're right.
Yeah, everything. And so now I'm towing that line, and it's working. So
Yeah. Well, you also had the audience on your side too,
Right.
And with that line, I mean, you clarified that you were on the same page as everybody else in the room.
Right, and I was definitely having a break. I think Sam likes me more now, or at least I'm becoming more natural on stage than clammed up. So
Yeah. Yeah, man, you got to roll with the punches.
it took almost 8 years, but
Everybody has their own timeline.
it depends on where I still have those insecurities. But generally, most of the time, I'm good now. So, but
Yeah, no matter how many times I get on stage, I still get nervous. It doesn't stop.
Right. For me, it's kind of unpredictable.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know, but
Yeah, I still get insecure on stage. I still, there are some jokes that always get laughs, and then one time it doesn't get a laugh, and it's like, what did I do? What happened? And sometimes it's a different audience.
Same jokes that get groans get applause breaks, and you have to live that double life
Yeah.
for the duration of that joke's existence.
Yeah, I'm on stage like, what the fuck is happening?
It's about how you sell it.
Yeah.
You sell it like it's too funnier than it is, they'll groan. If you sell it for what it's worth, people will,
Yeah,
it's circumstantial.
Yeah, there are some jokes where it'll get a laugh and a groan at the same time, and I'll draw attention to that. I'll communicate to them that I'm mad at myself for even thinking of that joke.
I just get mad at them.
Yeah,
I'm like, what? What's wrong with that?
see, and that's your persona. That's what you do on stage. It's
Right.
real. And for me, I'm still trying to discover that with more and more time on stage. But that's all it is. It's more and more time on stage. It's trying the same thing over and over again in different ways until it works. Mm-hmm. And that's what you got to do with a joke like this. Is you have to adapt it.
Right.
You have to adapt it. Like, I the second time I did it, I got more of a laugh on the scallops, being more important than this, somebody's life ending at a table. Like, what do you want me to use this at work?
Yeah.
Why are you? I told you I'm on my way to work. Why are you just like, hey, this person died. Have a good shift.
Yeah.
That's silly.
I thought of something funny to put in my notes right now. It's like right after you say a joke that might get groans, be like, hold your applause, and then just keep going. Because then at least people have something to laugh at right after that. They won't have time to groan.
Yeah.
And even if they do, well, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, you almost have to have something planned when a joke doesn't work.
Right.
That kind of ties into that joke or draws attention to the fallibility of you. Like, you have to communicate to them that you don't think you're above them.
Right.
Once you communicate that you think you're above the audience, like, you've lost them. You can't win them over. You can't. You even like put yourself below them.
They like
it's a learning curve.
conversational. You should be breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
A lot of comics don't do that, and that's why they bomb, because they're not being honest with the audience. You have to be like, all right, this is failing. And then they're like, it is. And I'm so happy that you finally broke character to be real with us right now, because we're enduring your fakeness.
Yeah.
And we want to get out of that as quickly as possible.
Yeah. It's a tension release.
If you can make that funny, then you will get them back. But at least they'll respect you if you can at least be honest with them without the humor.
Right.
But
Right.
you're not doing your job if you're not throwing that humor back in it and being able to. You have to be self-deprecating at that point a little bit, and then, I don't know. Every circumstance is different, so it's hard to really get into that.
Yeah, it's like I'm just like you guys. I know. Drawing attention to that definitely cuts the tension. That's the most important thing. It's a relationship between you and the audience. You lose their trust with a joke that's edgy, that you think is edgy. You've got to find a way to get them back, and that's different for every comedian. Some people will draw attention to it and punch down on themselves for telling the joke. Some people will, punch down on the audience for it in a funny way. I mean, it really depends on who it is. But, that's one of my favorite things to watch, too, is somebody that I know is a good comedian does something new and it doesn't work. How do they respond to that? Do they just power through? Do they draw attention to it? Do they yell at the audience about it? Do they yell at themselves about it? Like, what's their move?
You can always get a laugh after a laugh was supposed to happen and didn't, if you just know how to be real with them.
Yeah, you got to be ready for that. You got to be ready for every single thing that happens when you're on stage.
Yeah, you always see comics go, well, that didn't work, and then they get a huge laugh.
Yep.
Because they are right there with them. They're not being like, oh, let's see what else I can say. Oh, no. It's like, don't panic on stage. Everybody's going to be like, oh, look. Oh, it's so sad to see him. If you're making the audience feel bad for you, that's the most pathetic place you can be.
Yep.
Whether you're an asshole or just pathetic, they will feel sorry for you because they'll be like, either way, this guy sucks.
Yeah, I saw a newer comic, but I mean, mostly does open mics. And he wasn't getting laughs, and he was pacing back and forth and, like, moving the microphone around and, like, tossing it from hand to hand.
Taking
and
all
like,
the slack of the mic.
Yeah.
That's a sure sign of
nervousness. You're making the audience nervous. Like, even if you bomb, if you're confident in that, you still have the audience with you. Right. You just make the jokes better. So, I mean, it's a relationship with you and the audience. The audience is the most important person in that room.
Working on your body language is just such an enormous part of comedy. It's almost more important than the jokes themselves.
Right. I say, when I'm on stage, I move, like, my movements have become measured over time. Like, I will stand in one place, and then when I change topics, like, I'll take a few steps to the left or the right.
Yeah.
I'll switch the mic from hand to hand. It's a little psychological nudge to the audience.
It's best to just be comfortable, because that natural movement will occur because no one really feels right standing too still. I was too still for a very long time, but that was, obviously because I was just very, like, tense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels a lot better now.
No, when I'm ranting, I'll pace back and forth in the rant, because that's how I rant, like, in my head. That's real.
It's a tinge of autism.
Yep.
Where it was, the pacing is your mind processing something. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's more real that way. Like, if I'm just standing there yelling at them, it's like, are we in trouble?
Yeah.
Whereas if it's a little bit looser, but
pacing is great because it's like you see like very intelligent people pace when they're like, or it's like it's more of a stereotype where you think of like a scientist or something. They're like sitting there like looking at the ground, pacing back and forth. How do I got it? Like that kind of like that's deep in thought. That's
John Mulaney does. I mean, his pacing is.
Oh yeah,
it's great.
It's very energetic.
Yes. Yeah, he's always. I mean, watch his most recent special. He's got that huge stage,
right? And he uses it.
And
it is great.
Yeah. If you're gonna have that huge stage and just stand in the middle, it's like, why did we book Radio City? Why did
right? That does deliver good energy to the joke, the material.
And he's. I mean, his jokes are delivered with a lot of energy anyway. So
yeah. Tip for comics: that's how you make it in the writers' world too. Is because. It's funny, you would think because John Mulaney was a writer, like, why does he have all this energy and all this? You have to be able to pitch things as a writer, and that is he probably was always good at that. And, he's just got an active mind, and it's manifested through his movement, too, and his enthusiasm.
Oh yeah, no. When he tells a joke, like he is in. He believes every single word that he says.
That's why being a comic is so important to being a writer. You can be a great writer, but if you're so timid and you've only been good on Twitter your whole life, and then you're in this writer's room, you just wither away.
Yeah,
because you just don't have the personality for it.
Right.
Channel that energy. Energy is everything to comedy.
Mm-hmm. It's helped me, man. It's helped me. I mean, waiting tables. You're on stage essentially, so you're ready for it's just crowd work the whole time.
Right.
So that's helped me get quicker and more personable and knowing your audience. Like, is this a table that's gonna want to like joke back and have a good time, or is this, like a business meeting?
Yeah.
You can't laugh at that.
Just to sum it up, really,
too
you have
soon.
to. Yeah.
The phrase "too soon" is. I always said if I made fun of Kobe the day before he died, that would have been too soon. But that's just generally my joke. Like, if it's the day he died, that's right on schedule. But the thing is, that's not... I don't think it applies to this. It's usually a lesser tragedy, something that we can laugh at right away.
Yeah.
But, once it goes up in scale, it starts to be like, all right, that's touchy.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah, you have to know. I mean, you have to realize, like, if you're telling yourself as you're writing a joke or as you're getting ready to perform it, like, this is too soon, work on it, man. I mean, there's a point where if you deliver it the right way, there's no such thing as too soon.
Yeah, there's an infinite amount of ways you could have made that light of the Kobe situation, but it wouldn't have been at his expense necessarily.
Yeah.
It would have been something semi...
Yeah. I mean, if you're trolling, you got to know you're going to get pushback.
Right.
You got to know you're going to get pushback.
Some people want that pushback. They just love the
thrive on
excitement and the drama. Yeah. Like
so, I mean, what Ari did to me, I mean, it wasn't comedy, but I mean, who's to say what comedy is? Like, it's also subjective.
Now a lot of people know who he is.
Yeah.
And I think he might be gathering up other fans of edgelordism.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you listen to his stand-up, he's got some great material. So
yeah, he's a good writer. He's funny and all these things. He's good enough to have Carlos Mencia steal jokes from him. I don't even know if that's actually true. I do believe it's true because of all that shit that Joe Rogan did about that those fence jokes about the Mexicans and everything, and that's probably true. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, I don't know. How do you laugh at that? How soon is too soon? Make the joke about somebody else. Make the joke true. You have to trust. You have to have the trust of the audience. Mm-hmm. You have to have the trust of the audience. And then, if you build tension, you have to make sure the release is greater than the tension.
That tension is always a release of happiness and relief.
Mm-hmm.
It makes people feel good. That's why they're laughing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it has to be more than just
it's a great payoff.
Positive exit. Yeah, you have to make sure the payoff is good.
And it's an agreement too. They laugh in agreement.
Mm-hmm.
That usually that tension is a laughter of agreement. So,
all right. Well, that is. I think we did it.
Yeah,
I think we did it.
Good.
Comment. Share the podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. It's on Libsyn. Comment. We want to have a conversation. Like, what do you think?
Right.
What
do you think, Lorne Michaels?
Yeah. I know you're listening. This is it. Episode 2.5. This is the one that does it.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, there's an infinite number of topics that we're going to get into. So Stay tuned. We've got one about relationships coming up. We've got one about school shootings coming up. We've got one about stereotypes, death, all the topics that are taboo or overused. Mm-hmm. There are an infinite number of ways to laugh at that. And just like this, how soon is too soon? Depends on how you write the joke.
Yeah.
Depends on how you write the joke. Mm-hmm. And if you write it in the right way, in front of the right audience, you can laugh at that.
Yeah.
This is a podcast for comedians, for people who are fans of comedy, for people who are thinking about doing comedy. Or
people who are retiring from comedy.
People who are retiring from comedy.
But they don't know it yet.
Right. Yeah. They will by the end of this episode. If, I don't know, people who are into
anime.
People who are into
if you like bowling,
films. This
is a great podcast. If you're a bowler,
if you're a miniature golf fan, laser tag,
politics.
Yeah, If you're a mailman, if you're an engineer,
if you're the CEO
visual.
of Crayola, you can listen to this podcast and get something out of it.
If you'd like to weigh in on today's topic, follow us on Twitter at You Can't Laugh Pod, or like us on Facebook at You Can't Laugh at That, and tell us how you did laugh at today's topic or how you didn't. This is all about the conversation, is what I'm saying. All right. Bye.